I was staring at my wife's laptop screen, frozen in place, when I heard her car pull into the driveway. The notification had popped up 3 seconds ago. Just 3 seconds that had already divided my life into before and after. The preview was enough. Can't wait to feel you again tomorrow night. Tell him you're working late like last time. My name is David Foster, 42 years old, senior project manager at a tech firm in Austin, Texas. Married to Rebecca for 16 years. 2 kids, Emma, 14, and Noah, 11. I thought I knew exactly who I was and what my life looked like. I was wrong. The garage door rumbled open beneath our bedroom. I had maybe 30 seconds before Rebecca walked through the door. My hands moved on autopilot, muscle memory from 2 decades in IT taking over. Screenshot. AirDrop to my phone. Close the notification. Everything back to how it looked when I'd sat down to check the family calendar on her laptop, the one she'd left open on the bed while she ran out to pick up Noah from soccer practice. I wasn't snooping. That's what made this worse somehow. I was just checking what time Emma's orthodontist appointment was on Thursday. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Screenshot received. The bedroom door opened. Rebecca walked in, car keys jingling, her auburn hair pulled back in that messy bun she always wore for afternoon errands. She was smiling, humming something under her breath. She looked happy, relaxed, beautiful even in her yoga pants and oversized sweater. She looked like my wife. Noah's team won 3-1, she said, dropping her purse on the dresser. He scored the final goal. You should have seen his face, David. Pure joy. I was still sitting on the edge of our bed, her laptop balanced on my knees. I must have been staring because her smile faltered. You okay? You look pale. Fine, I heard myself say. Just tired. Long day. She crossed the room and kissed the top of my head. I could smell her perfume, the same one I'd bought her for Christmas. My stomach turned. Want me to start dinner? She asked. I was thinking of making that chicken piccata you love. Sure, that sounds great. She took her laptop from my hands, her fingers brushing mine. Thanks for not moving it. I've got like 15 tabs open for the PTA fundraiser planning. PTA fundraiser. Right. She was co-chair this year. All those evening meetings. All those times she'd come home at 9, 10, sometimes 11 at night, apologizing for how long things had run, complaining about difficult parents and vendor issues, working late like last time. Rebecca, I said. She turned at the doorway, eyebrows raised. I almost asked. The question was right there, loaded and ready. But something stopped me. Some instinct I didn't know I had. What time's your meeting tomorrow night? 6:30, she said without hesitation. Probably won't be home until 9 or so. Why? Just wondering if I should plan on handling bedtime solo. Yeah, probably better if you do. You know how these things run. She smiled apologetically. I'll make it up to you this weekend. Maybe we can finally have that date night we keep talking about. Date night. We hadn't had one in months. Maybe longer. I'd stopped counting. Sounds good, I said. She left, and I heard her footsteps on the stairs, heard her greeting Emma in the hallway, heard the normalcy of my family's evening routine beginning without me. I pulled out my phone. The screenshot was crystal clear. The messaging app wasn't one I recognized, some platform I'd never heard of, which probably meant it was designed for discretion. The profile picture next to the message was a man. Dark hair, maybe mid-30s, professional headshot type photo. The name above it read, Justin. I expanded the image, zoomed in. The timestamp showed the message had been sent 40 minutes ago, right around when Rebecca had left to get Noah. There were previous messages above it, but the preview had cut them off. My hands were shaking. 16 years. We'd been married for 16 years. Together for 18. We'd met at a mutual friend's barbecue in Houston, back when I was still doing help desk support and she was finishing her marketing degree. She'd laughed at my terrible jokes. I'd been charmed by the way she argued about movies, passionate and articulate. Our first kiss had been in the parking lot of a Chili's, of all places, after a terrible first date meal that we'd laughed about for years afterward. She'd held my hand in the delivery room when Emma was born. I'd held hers when Noah came, 2 years later after the miscarriage that had nearly broken us both. We'd survived that. We'd survived my father's death, her mother's cancer scare, the layoff that had left us scrambling for 6 months. We'd survived everything. Or so I'd thought. Downstairs, I heard Rebecca laughing at something one of the kids said. The sound used to make me smile automatically. Now it felt like glass in my chest. I opened my phone's browser and started searching. What to do if you suspect infidelity, Texas? The results loaded. Lawyers, private investigators, advice forums, divorce statistics. Divorce. The word felt foreign. Impossible. That happened to other people, other marriages, not us. But the screenshot on my phone said otherwise. I heard footsteps on the stairs again. I shoved my phone in my pocket and stood up, smoothing my shirt, arranging my face into something neutral. David, Rebecca called. Can you help Emma with her algebra? She's stuck on systems of equations. Yeah, I called back. Be right there. I caught my reflection in the bedroom mirror as I headed for the door. Same face, same guy. But everything underneath had shifted, like tectonic plates realigning. I had less than 24 hours to figure out what to do. Tomorrow night at 6:30, my wife had plans. And now, so did I. The coffee shop smelled like burnt espresso and cinnamon. I'd been coming to Wanderlust Coffee Nook for 3 years, ever since Rebecca suggested we start using a shared bullet journal app to coordinate our lives. Better than the old paper calendar, she'd said. More efficient. We could both update it anywhere, anytime. I sat in our usual corner booth, the one with the wobbly table that nobody else wanted. My laptop was open to the app we'd synced across all our devices, phones, tablets, computers. The interface glowed against the reclaimed wood paneling. Rebecca was at the counter ordering her usual oat milk latte. I watched her laugh at something the barista said, tucking that strand of auburn hair behind her ear. She looked so normal. So her. I'd spent the last 18 hours deciding not to confront her yet. Not until I understood the full scope of what I was dealing with. This morning, I'd suggested we have our weekly planning session at the coffee shop instead of at home. She'd agreed immediately, enthusiastically even. She slid into the booth across from me, setting down her mug. Okay, so Emma's orthodontist appointment is Wednesday at 4, she said, already swiping through the app on her phone. And Noah has that away game on Saturday. Right. I pulled up the calendar view on my laptop. I'll take him. We worked through the logistics like we always did. Grocery lists, bill payments, her PTA fundraiser next month, my project deadline the week after. The rhythm was so familiar it felt like muscle memory. Then she switched to her gratitude journal section. The app had different modules: calendar, task lists, meal planning, and personal reflection spaces. Rebecca had gotten really into the gratitude journaling about 6 months ago. Some wellness thing she'd picked up from her circle of yoga friends. She'd encouraged me to try it too, but I'd never been consistent with it. I'm going to do my morning gratitude entry real quick, she said, fingers already moving across her phone screen. I nodded, pretending to review next week's schedule while actually watching her type. Her face had that soft, distant expression she got when she was writing something personal. My phone buzzed. The app notification showed her new entry had synced. I opened my gratitude journal tab, the one I rarely used. Rebecca's entries filled the shared space. We could both see each other's reflections if we wanted to. It was supposed to build intimacy, according to the wellness blog she'd read. Her latest entry appeared at the top. Grateful for unexpected moments of joy, for feeling seen and understood, for remembering what it's like to feel alive. R. Standard gratitude journal stuff. Vague enough to be meaningless. Except. I scrolled down through her previous entries, the ones I'd never really paid attention to before. They went back months. Grateful for stolen hours that feel like coming home. R. Thankful for Jay reminding me who I used to be. R. Blessed by connection that feels electric and real. R. J. Justin. The timestamps caught my eye. I clicked on one from 3 weeks ago, then checked the metadata. The app tracked location data when entries were synced, a feature I'd forgotten about until now. Wanderlust Coffee Nook, Eugene, Oregon. I checked another entry, same location, and another. At least a dozen entries over the past 4 months, all synced from this exact coffee shop's Wi-Fi network. My coffee tasted like acid. You okay? Rebecca looked up from her phone. Yeah, just thinking about work. I forced my face into something neutral. She'd been writing about her affair in our shared journal. Not explicitly, she was too careful for that. But the pattern was there. The gratitude entries with his initial, all time-stamped to this location. Our location. The place we came together every week to coordinate our family life. She'd been meeting him here, writing about him here. Then coming home and syncing those entries to the app I could access anytime, hiding in plain sight. I'm going to run to the restroom, Rebecca said, standing up. The moment she disappeared around the corner, I opened my laptop settings and activated the screen mirroring function. The coffee shop had installed a projector system last month for their Thursday night trivia events. The equipment was still set up, the white wall behind the counter serving as a makeshift screen. It took me 15 seconds to connect. The app's interface appeared on the wall, 8 feet tall and impossible to miss. Rebecca's gratitude journal filled the projection. I scrolled through the entries, each one appearing massive on the wall. The timestamps, the location data, the initials. Grateful for Jay's hands remembering every curve. R. Thankful for Tuesday afternoons that taste like freedom. R. Blessed by the way Jay says my name like a prayer. R. The barista noticed first. She stopped mid-pour, staring at the wall. Then a customer. Then another. I heard Rebecca's footsteps behind me. David, what are you... Her voice cut off. She'd seen the wall. The entire coffee shop had gone quiet. 15 people, maybe 20, all staring at the projection of my wife's affair documented in careful, grateful detail. Rebecca's face drained of color. Turn it off. Why? I kept my voice level, almost curious. These are just gratitude entries. You said journaling was important for wellness, for being authentic. David, please. I scrolled to another entry. The projection shifted. Grateful for Jay making me feel desired again. For remembering I'm more than someone's mother and wife. R. Her coffee mug slipped from her hand. The ceramic shattered against the floor, brown liquid spreading across the reclaimed wood. You're taking it out of context. Her voice was shaking. Am I? I pulled up the metadata overlay, showing the timestamps and location data, because it looks like you've been meeting someone named Jay at this exact coffee shop for the past 4 months, writing about how grateful you are for him. Then syncing it to our shared app and coming home to plan carpool schedules with me. Someone in the corner booth pulled out their phone. I heard the camera shutter sound. Rebecca lunged for my laptop. I closed it before she could reach it, disconnecting the projection. The wall went blank. The silence was deafening. You're insane, she whispered. In front of everyone. I just shared your gratitude practice with an audience. Isn't that what your wellness circle does? Share reflections for growth? Her hand connected with my face before I registered she'd moved. The slap echoed through the coffee shop. I didn't flinch, just looked at her. "We're done here," I said quietly. "I'll see you at home." Or not. I honestly don't care which. I packed up my laptop and walked out. The screenshots took me 40 minutes to compile. Every gratitude entry with his initial. Every timestamp showing the coffee shop location. Every piece of metadata the app had automatically logged. I anonymized them, removed our names, replaced them with generic labels. Changed the location to just coffee shop instead of the specific name. Made it look like a case study instead of our actual life. Then I found Rebecca's Wellness Circle group chat. She'd left it open on the family iPad weeks ago. I'd never paid attention before. 12 women. All of them doing the same gratitude journaling practice, sharing their reflections in a private group link for accountability and support. I uploaded the anonymized screenshots to the shared drive with a simple caption. When gratitude journaling becomes documentation of emotional theft. Thought this might be relevant for the group's discussion on authentic versus performative wellness practices. I hit send. Then I forwarded the same screenshots to my own email with the subject line, "Evidence for attorney, emotional alienation of affection." My phone rang. Rebecca. I didn't answer. It rang again and again. On the fourth call, I picked up. "What did you do?" Her voice was ragged. "The group, they're all, 'David, what did you do?' Shared your authentic gratitude practice. Anonymously, of course. I thought they'd appreciate the insight into how journaling can track patterns of behavior. Isn't that the whole point? Mindful awareness? You're destroying me." "No, Rebecca. I'm just making visible what you already did. You destroyed yourself. You just didn't think anyone would notice." She was crying now. Please take it down. They know it's me. They all know." "How? It's completely anonymous." "The details, they just know, David. Please." "I'll see you in court," I said, and hung up. My lawyer had been very interested in the app's terms of service. Specifically, the section about data ownership and therapeutic documentation. If Rebecca tried to claim emotional distress in the divorce, her own gratitude entries, time-stamped, location verified, voluntarily created, would demonstrate a pattern of intentional deception. No therapy reimbursement for trauma you documented yourself enjoying. The settlement came through faster than I expected. Rebecca's attorney pushed for quick resolution. The Wellness Circle had apparently made their feelings clear. 3 of them had already blocked her number. 2 more had asked her to step down from a retreat planning committee. Shunning was a powerful thing in tight-knit communities. Rebecca got the house. I got the kids' primary custody and my retirement accounts intact. She also agreed to permanent deletion of her access to our shared journal app. I still use it. Just me now. My gratitude entries are simple, honest. Grateful for documentation, for timestamps, for the truth making itself visible. Thankful for coffee shops with projectors. Blessed by the clarity that comes from seeing what was always there. I don't write them from Wanderlust Coffee Nook anymore. I found a new place. The settlement papers arrived on a Tuesday morning, 3 weeks after Rebecca's attorney called mine with what Patrick called a white flag dressed up as a surrender document. I was sitting in my home office, the spare bedroom that used to be my sanctuary before it became command central for dismantling my marriage. The FedEx driver didn't ring the doorbell, just left the envelope propped against the front door like a pizza menu. Rebecca got the house. I got primary custody, my retirement accounts intact, and something Patrick said was unusual, a clause preventing her from accessing our shared digital accounts, including the bullet journal app, as part of the settlement. He'd argued it as protecting my mental health records, since I'd used the app for therapy documentation. Emotional theft, he'd called it in the filing. Your private reflections weaponized against the sanctity of your recovery process. I didn't correct him. Didn't mention that most of my entries were grocery lists and meeting notes, not soul-searching confessionals. Rebecca was the one who'd treated it like a diary, was the one who documented her affair and gratitude speak, while I tracked whether Noah needed new cleats. The therapy reimbursement denial was Patrick's masterstroke. Rebecca's insurance had covered her sessions with Dr. Melissa Brennan, a wellness coach who specialized in authentic living and radical self-acceptance. Patrick argued that since Rebecca had been using therapy to facilitate infidelity, her journal entries timestamped to match her therapy appointments, followed immediately by cafe meetups with Jay. The insurance company had been defrauded. He filed a complaint, attached the anonymized screenshots I'd sent to her wellness circle, highlighted the pattern: therapy session at 2, gratitude entry at 2:45, cafe Wi-Fi sync at 3:15. The insurance company launched an investigation. Dr. Brennan's office sent Rebecca a bill for 8 months of back payments, $17,000. Rebecca's attorney tried to make me responsible for half of it in the settlement. Patrick laughed into the phone loud enough that I heard it from across the room. "Your client committed insurance fraud," he'd said. "My client has documentation. Would you like me to forward it to the state licensing board, or would you prefer to move on?" They moved on. I signed the papers at my desk, using the same pen I'd used to sign our marriage license 16 years ago. A silver Waterman. Rebecca had given me as a wedding gift, engraved with our initials intertwined. DF plus RF. I'd kept it in my laptop bag all these years. Used it for important documents, client contracts, Emma's permission slips for field trips. The nib scratched across the signature line with a sound like tearing fabric. Done. I scanned the signed documents and emailed them to Patrick. Then I opened the bullet journal app one last time. The settlement gave me exclusive access, but I'd already downloaded everything I needed: screenshots, PDFs, metadata logs. All backed up in 3 separate locations, encrypted and password protected. Patrick said I wouldn't need them. The divorce was final, no appeals, no modifications except standard custody adjustments. But I kept them anyway. I scrolled through Rebecca's entries one last time. Months of gratitude wrapped in code. Grateful for unexpected connections. J. Grateful for moments that feel like coming home. J. Grateful for someone who sees me, really sees me. J. I'd read them so many times they'd lost meaning. Just words now. Letters arranged in patterns that used to make my chest tight, used to make me want to put my fist through the drywall. Now they just looked pathetic. I deleted my account. Watched the confirmation dialog box appear. "Are you sure? This action cannot be undone." I clicked yes. The app wiped clean. All my entries, all my data, gone. Rebecca's entries stayed on the server, technically still accessible to law enforcement or legal subpoena, but locked behind an account that no longer existed. She'd never be able to log in again, never be able to read her own words, her own documentation of betrayal. The settlement clause made sure of that. Any attempt to access the app or create a new account using shared data would constitute a violation of the agreement. Patrick had been very specific about the language. I closed my laptop and looked around the office. Boxes lined the walls, half-packed. The kids and I were moving to a townhouse across town in 2 weeks. Closer to their schools, closer to my office. A fresh start that didn't smell like Rebecca's Christmas perfume in every room. Emma had picked out paint colors for her new bedroom. Noah wanted to know if we could get a dog now that we'd have a yard. I'd said maybe. Let's get settled first. They were handling it better than I'd expected. Emma had cried when we told them, but only for a few minutes. Then she'd asked if she could still do theater camp this summer. Noah had wanted to know if he'd have to change soccer teams. Practical questions, logistical concerns. They'd save the emotional processing for later, probably in therapy sessions I'd be paying for until they turned 18. Rebecca had tried to call me 4 times since the settlement offer came through. I'd let every call go to voicemail. She'd left messages that started apologetic and ended angry. "You didn't have to destroy my entire life, David. You could have just divorced me quietly. The kids are going to remember what you did." I deleted them without listening all the way through. Didn't need to hear the whole performance. My phone buzzed. Text from Mason, my brother in Seattle. "Papers signed?" "Yeah, done." "Good. You want to bring the kids up here for spring break? Get out of Texas for a while?" I stared at the message. Mason had offered his guest room 3 times since the separation. Said I could stay as long as I needed, that Emma and Noah would love the Space Needle and Pike Place Market. I'd always said no. Too much work, too much to handle, too complicated with the divorce pending. But now it was done. Let me check their school calendar. Probably yes. Good. Jenny's already planning activities. She's got a whole spreadsheet. I smiled despite myself. Mason's wife was a middle school science teacher with a gift for organization that made my project management skills look amateur. If she was planning our trip, it would run smoother than a product launch. Tell her thanks. Tell her yourself. She wants to talk to Emma about the aquarium. I'll have her call tonight. I set the phone down and went back to packing. Books first, then office supplies, then the framed photos I'd already taken down from the walls. Most of them featured Rebecca. Our wedding, vacations, Christmas cards from years past. I'd boxed them up for the kids. Let them decide what to do with images of their mother smiling at a camera, pretending everything was fine while she was probably thinking about Jay. The doorbell rang at 6:15. I wasn't expecting anyone. I went downstairs and checked the peephole. A woman I didn't recognize stood on the porch, holding a casserole dish covered in aluminum foil. I opened the door halfway. "Can I help you?" She smiled, uncertain. Mid-40s, blonde hair in a bob, wearing jeans and a fleece jacket. "Hi, I'm Lauren. Lauren Mitchell? I live 3 doors down, the blue house with the white shutters." I nodded. I'd seen her at neighborhood gatherings. Rebecca had mentioned her a few times. PTA adjacent, not quite in the inner circle. "I heard about the divorce," she said. "I'm so sorry. I wanted to bring you something. Lasagna. It's vegetarian, but I can make a meat version if the kids prefer." She held out the casserole dish. I took it automatically. "Thank you. That's very kind." She nodded, shifting her weight. I also wanted to say what Rebecca did, what she put in that journal. It wasn't right. "A lot of us have been talking, and we think you handled it with a lot of restraint." Restraint. Interesting word choice. I appreciate that. "If you need anything, let me know. I'm happy to help with the kids, or if you need recommendations for movers or anything." "Thank you, Lauren. Really." She smiled again, warmer this time, and walked back down the driveway to her car. I closed the door and carried the lasagna to the kitchen. Set it on the counter next to 3 other casserole dishes that had appeared over the past week. The neighborhood had apparently chosen sides. Rebecca's wellness circle had shunned her. Now the broader community was rallying around me. I should have felt vindicated, triumphant even. Instead, I just felt tired. I put the lasagna in the refrigerator and went back upstairs to finish packing. The moving truck was scheduled for Saturday morning. That gave me 5 days to pack up 16 years of marriage into cardboard boxes labeled David, Emma, Noah, or Donate. I was in the garage Wednesday evening, breaking down boxes I'd picked up from the liquor store when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Eugene area code. I almost didn't answer. "David Foster?" "Speaking. This is Melissa Grant. I'm calling from Wanderlust Coffee Nook." Her voice was young, uncertain. I'm the manager here. I think we need to talk. My stomach dropped. The projection incident had happened 3 weeks ago. I'd assumed the coffee shop had moved on, written it off as bizarre customer drama they'd rather forget. I'm not sure what... Your wife came in today. Melissa cut me off. She tried to access the cafe Wi-Fi using your shared account credentials. When our system flagged it as potentially fraudulent due to the divorce settlement restrictions, she became upset. I closed my eyes. Of course, Rebecca would try something like this. The settlement explicitly banned her from the shared journal app, but it couldn't stop her from physically going to the coffee shop. What did she do? She demanded we provide her with copies of all Wi-Fi access logs from the past year. She said she needed them for an appeal. When I explained we couldn't release customer data without a subpoena, she accused us of conspiring with you to destroy evidence. I could picture it perfectly. Rebecca in her yoga pants and oversized sweater, auburn hair and that messy bun, voice rising in the cafe where we'd planned Emma's birthday parties and Noah's soccer schedules, where she'd written those gratitude entries about Jay. I'm sorry she bothered you, I said. The divorce is finalized. She has no legal claim to any of that information. That's not why I'm calling. Melissa hesitated. She left her personal journal here. An actual paper journal, not the app. She was writing in it when I asked her to leave, and she just abandoned it on the table. I think she was too angry to remember. My hand tightened on the phone. We normally hold lost items for 30 days, but given the circumstances, I thought you should know. There's a lot of personal information in here. Names, addresses, phone numbers, details about your children. Have you read it? Only enough to identify the owner. Another pause. Mr. Foster, some of what's in here is concerning. References to custody modification strategies, plans to discredit you with Emma and Noah's schools. There's also financial information that doesn't match what you presented during the projection incident. I set down the box cutter. My hands were shaking. I'll be there in 40 minutes. The coffee shop was nearly empty when I arrived. A college student hunched over a laptop in the corner, headphones on. An elderly couple sharing a scone near the window. The familiar smell of espresso and cinnamon hit me as I walked in, and for a moment I was back in those Sunday morning planning sessions, Rebecca laughing as Noah spilled hot chocolate on the table. Melissa was waiting behind the counter. Early 30s, dark hair pulled back in a professional ponytail, name tag slightly crooked. She recognized me immediately. Mr. Foster. She reached under the counter and pulled out a leather-bound journal, the kind sold at artisan shops for $30. I'm glad you came. The journal was smaller than I expected. Maybe 5 by 7 inches, worn at the edges like Rebecca had been carrying it in her purse for months. My name was written on the inside cover in her handwriting. Property of Rebecca Foster. If found, please return to... followed by our home address. Our former home address. I've documented that you picked it up, Melissa said quietly. Date, time, condition, when found. Just in case there are questions later. Thank you. I didn't open it until I was back in my car, parked in the lot where Rebecca and I used to park side by side for our coffee dates. The same lot where she'd probably parked when meeting Jay. The first entry was dated 8 months ago, 2 weeks before I'd discovered the affair. Therapy Session 12. Dr. Wagner says I need to start documenting my feelings outside our sessions. The app feels too exposed. David can see everything, even if he doesn't read it. This needs to be private. I flipped forward. Page after page of entries, some short, some spanning multiple pages. Details about her sessions with Dr. Wagner, the therapist whose bills I'd been paying through our insurance, the therapist whose reimbursements Rebecca now owed $17,000 for. But it wasn't therapy notes. Jay says David is too controlling, that the shared journal app is a form of surveillance. He's right. I can't write anything real there without David potentially seeing it. Even my gratitude entries feel like performance. Further down the same page, met Jay at Wanderlust again. David was in Seattle for that conference. 3 hours together, no interruptions. He understands me in ways David never has. When I told him about David's reaction to my PTA commitments, Jay said it sounded like emotional manipulation. I never thought of it that way before. My jaw clenched. The Seattle conference was 9 months ago. I'd been gone for 4 days, presenting our team's quarterly results to the regional directors. Rebecca had texted me every night, sent photos of the kids doing homework, told me she missed me. I kept reading. The entries became more detailed as the affair progressed. Dates, times, locations. But also something else. A narrative Rebecca was constructing about our marriage. About me. David controls everything through that journal app. What we eat, when we schedule appointments, even how we spend time together. He calls it family organization, but it's really about him maintaining power. Dr. Wagner helped me see that. Jay pointed out that David's evidence gathering during the divorce is classic abusive behavior. He violated my privacy, publicly humiliated me, turned my wellness circle against me, and everyone acts like he's the victim. Emma told me yesterday that David said I was going through something difficult, and they should be patient with me. He's positioning himself as the stable parent while painting me as unstable. It's gaslighting. I had to stop reading. My hands were shaking again, but this time from anger rather than shock. This was revisionist history, a complete rewriting of everything that had happened. Rebecca had cheated, lied, used our shared journal to document her affair while I paid for the therapy sessions where she planned it. I'd discovered the truth and protected myself and our children, but in this journal, she was the victim. I was the abuser. I pulled out my phone and called Patrick. David, everything okay? Rebecca left a personal journal at the coffee shop. The manager called me to pick it up. I took a breath. It's full of entries about the divorce, about me. She's building a narrative that I'm controlling and abusive. Silence on Patrick's end. Then, is she planning to file an appeal? I don't know. But there are references to custody modification strategies, plans to talk to Emma and Noah's school counselors about my concerning behavior patterns. Send me photos of every page, tonight. I started the car but didn't drive. Instead, I sat in the Wanderlust parking lot, photographing each page of Rebecca's journal under the dome light. 47 pages total. Some entries were single paragraphs. Others went on for pages, detailing conversations with Jay, interpretations from Dr. Wagner, strategies for reclaiming her narrative. One entry, dated 5 days after the projection incident, made me stop cold. Jay says I should document everything David does from now on. Every interaction with the kids, every financial decision, every time he references the affair. Build a counter case showing his vindictive behavior. The settlement might be finalized, but custody arrangements can always be modified if I can prove the children are in an unstable environment. Dr. Wagner agrees. She says David's public humiliation tactics show a concerning lack of empathy and impulse control. Those are red flags for emotional abuse. If I can document a pattern, I might be able to argue for primary custody after all. My daughter was 14, my son was 11. They'd already been through enough. I finished photographing the journal and sent the files to Patrick. Then I sat there in the parking lot, watching the coffee shop through the windshield. The elderly couple was leaving, walking slowly to their car with linked arms. The college student was still inside, oblivious to everything except whatever was on his screen. This was supposed to be over. The divorce was finalized, the settlement signed. Rebecca got the house, I got the kids, and my retirement accounts. Clean break, move forward, start healing. But Rebecca wasn't done. My phone buzzed. Patrick calling back. "I've reviewed the photos," he said without preamble. "This is concerning, but it's also incredibly stupid on her part." "How so?" "She's documenting plans to commit fraud, false allegations to school counselors, manipulated evidence for custody modification. If she actually follows through with any of this, these journal entries prove premeditation. They destroy her credibility completely. So what do I do?" "Nothing yet. Keep the journal secured. Document when and where you received it, who gave it to you, condition it was in. I'll file a motion to introduce it as evidence if Rebecca attempts any custody modifications. Right now, it's insurance." I looked down at the leather journal on my passenger seat. "Patrick, she's planning to tell Emma and Noah that I'm abusive. Then we make sure the court sees this first. David, I know this feels like it's never going to end, but Rebecca is making mistakes. Serious ones. Let her." We hung up. I sat there for another 10 minutes, engine running, heat blasting against the November cold. The journal felt like a bomb in my car. Evidence of Rebecca's planning, yes. But also evidence of how far apart we'd grown, how completely we'd failed each other. I drove home, to the rental townhouse that would become home on Saturday, and locked the journal in my fireproof safe next to the external hard drive containing all the original evidence from the affair. Just insurance, Patrick had said. But it felt like war. The physical journal sat in my car trunk for 3 days before I decided what to do with it. I pulled into Patrick's office parking lot on Thursday afternoon, the leather-bound book wrapped in a plastic grocery bag, like evidence from a crime scene. Which, in a way, it was. Rebecca had written her playbook for destroying me, and she'd been careless enough to leave it behind in the one place she'd felt safe documenting her real thoughts. Patrick's paralegal showed me straight back to his office. He was on the phone but gestured for me to sit, wrapping up a call about a deposition schedule. "David," he set his phone down. "You look like you've seen a ghost." "Rebecca left something at Wanderlust." I placed the plastic bag on his desk. "The manager called me Tuesday, said she wanted to make sure it got back to the right person." Patrick pulled the journal out, handling it carefully. His expression didn't change as he flipped through the pages, but I watched his jaw tighten when he reached the sections I'd marked with sticky notes. "She's planning to modify custody," I said. "There's a whole strategy outlined. Make reports to Emma's school counselor about my controlling behavior. Document every time I'm 5 minutes late for pickup. She's got a timeline, 6 months of building a paper trail, then file for modification." Patrick set the journal down and looked at me over his reading glasses. "This is her handwriting?" "Yes." "And the coffee shop manager will testify she left it there?" "Probably. Her name's Melissa Grant. She seemed pretty disgusted when she skimmed through it." Patrick pulled out his phone and started typing notes. "We need to get ahead of this. If Rebecca starts making allegations to school counselors, we need Emma's teachers and administrators already aware that there's a contentious custody situation and that false allegations might be coming." My stomach turned. "You think she'll actually do it?" "David, she committed insurance fraud to cover up an affair. She reframed reality so completely in this journal that she's convinced herself you're the villain. Yes, I think she'll do it." He tapped the journal. "The good news is we have her playbook. We know exactly what she's planning." "So what do we do?" Patrick leaned back in his chair. "First, we document this. I'll have my paralegal photograph every page, get it notarized with a statement about where and when it was recovered. Second, you're going to write a letter to Emma's school principal and counselor. Factual, unemotional. Explain that you're recently divorced, you have primary custody, and you've become aware that your ex-spouse may attempt to make false allegations as part of a custody dispute. That sounds like I'm paranoid. You attach relevant portions of the settlement agreement showing the fraud findings and her loss of primary custody. You're not paranoid. You're a responsible parent making sure the school has accurate information." Patrick pulled out a legal pad. Third, you're going to start documenting everything. Every pickup, every drop-off, every communication with Rebecca. Timestamps, screenshots, everything. I felt exhaustion settle into my bones. This is never going to end, is it? It'll end when she realizes she can't win, Patrick's voice was firm. Or when she moves on to rewriting some other narrative. But right now, we make sure she can't touch your custody. That night, Emma asked me about the divorce settlement at dinner. Mom says she got screwed because you had a better lawyer. She pushed pasta around her plate, not looking at me. She says the judge was sexist. Noah kept his eyes on his food, but I could see him listening. I set down my fork. The judge reviewed all the evidence and made a fair decision based on the facts. Your mom made some choices that had consequences. Like what choices? Emma's voice had that teenage challenge in it, the tone that said she was testing whether I'd tell her the truth or feed her a line, like using therapy sessions to meet someone she was having a relationship with, then submitting those sessions to insurance for reimbursement. That's fraud. The judge included it in the settlement. Emma's eyes widened slightly. Mom said the therapy thing was a misunderstanding. It wasn't. I kept my voice level. I have documentation. When you're older, if you want to see it, I'll show you. But right now, what matters is that the divorce is final. We have a custody arrangement that the court approved, and we're all going to follow it. She also said you humiliated her on purpose, at the coffee shop. There it was, Rebecca's rewrite, already taking root in Emma's mind. I found out your mom was having an affair through entries she made in our shared journal app. Those entries synced to the coffee shop Wi-Fi because that's where she was writing them. When I confronted her, the app was still open and projected on the wall. Was it humiliating? Yes. Did I plan it that way? No. Emma studied my face, trying to decide if I was lying. Mom says you could have talked to her privately. I could have, and maybe I should have. But I was hurt and angry, and I made a choice in the moment. I met her eyes. I'm not going to pretend I handled everything perfectly. But I didn't cheat on my marriage, and I didn't commit fraud. Noah finally looked up. Is Mom going to jail? No, buddy. She has to pay back the insurance company, but she's not going to jail. Good. His voice was small. I don't want her to go to jail. Me neither, I said, and meant it. Emma pushed back from the table. May I be excused? Clear your plate first. She grabbed her dish and carried it to the sink with enough force that I heard the ceramic clink against the stainless steel. Then she disappeared upstairs, her bedroom door closing with a definitive click. Noah looked at me. Emma's mad at you. I know. She's mad at Mom too, though. She just doesn't want to say it. I reached over and ruffled his hair. When did you get so smart? I'm not smart, I just pay attention. He stood up with his plate. Can I play Xbox for 30 minutes before homework? 20 minutes. Deal. I wrote the letter to Emma's school that night after both kids were in bed. It took me 2 hours and 7 drafts to get the tone right. Concerned parent, not paranoid ex-husband. I attached a copy of the settlement agreement with the relevant sections highlighted and a brief timeline of the divorce proceedings. Patrick reviewed it Friday morning and approved it with minor edits. I hand-delivered it to the school office before lunch, asking to speak with both the principal and Emma's guidance counselor. Principal Anderson was a woman in her late 50s with gray hair and sharp eyes. The guidance counselor, Tyler Brooks, looked young enough to be fresh out of grad school. Mr. Foster, Anderson gestured to a chair in her office. Your email said this was urgent. I handed them each a copy of the letter and the settlement excerpts. I'm recently divorced. I have primary custody of my daughter Emma, who's in 9th grade here. I've become aware that my ex-wife may attempt to make allegations about my parenting as part of a custody dispute, and I wanted to make sure you had accurate information. Brooks skimmed the letter, his eyebrows rising. This settlement mentions insurance fraud? My ex-wife used therapy sessions to facilitate an affair, then submitted those sessions for insurance reimbursement. The court found she'd committed fraud and required repayment as part of the settlement. Anderson read more slowly, her expression neutral. And you believe she may make false reports to our staff? I have documentation suggesting she's planning to build a case for custody modification by reporting concerning behaviors that don't exist. I'm not asking you to dismiss anything Emma or my ex-wife might say. I'm asking you to be aware that there's a contentious situation and to document carefully if allegations are made. We always document carefully, Anderson said, but her tone had shifted slightly. More formal. We take any allegations of child welfare seriously. I understand, and I want you to take them seriously. I just want to make sure you have the full context. I pulled out another document. This is Emma's custody schedule, my contact information, and my ex-wife's contact information. I'm available anytime if you have concerns about Emma's well-being. Brooks set down the letter. Has Emma shown any signs of distress? She's angry, at both of us. She's processing a divorce she didn't ask for. I kept my voice steady. But she's safe, she's cared for, and I'm making sure she has access to actual therapy, not the kind her mother was using. Anderson made a note on her legal pad. We'll keep this information on file. If concerns arise, we'll contact you directly. That's all I'm asking. I left the school feeling simultaneously relieved and dirty. Rebecca had forced me into a position where I had to preemptively defend myself against allegations that hadn't been made yet. Her journal had turned me into someone who handed school administrators legal documents about my divorce settlement. But Patrick was right. Better to get ahead of it than to be blindsided when a school counselor called CPS based on Rebecca's carefully crafted narrative. My phone buzzed as I reached my car. A text from an unknown number. You went to Emma's school. Really? You're going to poison them against me before I even have a chance? I stared at the message. Emma must have mentioned seeing me in the office, or one of the staff had said something. I didn't respond. Patrick's voice echoed in my head. Document everything. Engage minimally. I took a screenshot, saved it to a folder labeled Post-Divorce Communications, and put my phone away. Rebecca's war wasn't over. It was just evolving. The text came through at 7:43 p.m. on a Tuesday, 3 weeks after I'd walked into Emma's school. We need to talk about Emma's therapy sessions. Dr. Wagner recommended someone who specializes in parental alienation. I've already made the appointment. I was sitting in my apartment, a 2-bedroom place in a complex near the kids' school, staring at my phone. The apartment still smelled like paint and new carpet. I'd moved in 2 months ago with a mattress, a coffee maker, and 6 boxes of things Rebecca hadn't wanted. Dr. Wagner. The same therapist who'd helped Rebecca plan her custody modification strategy. The same one who'd be on the hook for insurance fraud if I pushed the documentation to the state board. I screenshot the message. Then I opened the settlement agreement on my laptop and found the relevant section. Paragraph 14, subsection C. Both parties must mutually agree on any mental health providers for minor children. Written consent required from both parents prior to scheduling. Rebecca knew this. She'd negotiated this exact clause through her attorney. I forwarded the screenshot to Patrick with a single line. She's testing boundaries already. His response came back in under 2 minutes. Don't engage directly. I'll send a formal reminder of the custody order. Document everything. I set the phone down and looked around the apartment. Emma's room had a bed I'd assembled from IKEA, a desk I'd found on Facebook Marketplace, and posters she'd picked out but never hung up. She'd spent exactly 4 nights here since the divorce finalized. Each visit, she'd been quieter than the last. Noah's room had his soccer trophies arranged on a shelf, his Xbox hooked up to a TV I'd bought specifically because he mentioned wanting to play his games here. He stayed every other weekend without complaint, but he'd started asking questions I didn't know how to answer. Why did you show everyone Mom's private stuff? Did you really want to embarrass her? Mom says you made her look bad on purpose. I'd tried explaining, carefully without bad-mouthing Rebecca, that sometimes adults make choices that hurt people, and those choices have consequences. But how do you tell an 11-year-old that his mother committed insurance fraud? That she was planning to lie about me to take them away? You don't. So I'd said something vague about grown-up problems and offered to take him for ice cream. Patrick's formal letter went out the next morning. By noon, Rebecca's attorney responded with a carefully worded email stating that Rebecca had misunderstood the provisions and would, of course, comply with all custody requirements going forward. I knew what that meant. She'd probed, found resistance, and would try a different angle. The different angle arrived on Friday. Emma texted me at 4:17 p.m. Can I skip this weekend? Megan invited me to her birthday sleepover. Megan, Emma's best friend since 3rd grade. The sleepover was probably real, but it was also my weekend, and this was the 3rd time in 5 weeks Emma had asked to change the schedule. I called instead of texting. Emma answered on the 4th ring. Dad, I'm at Mom's. Can I call you back? This'll just take a second, honey. About this weekend? I really want to go to Megan's party. Mom already said it was okay. I'm sure it's a great party, but we have plans. Remember? We were going to check out that new climbing gym you mentioned. Silence. Then, quieter. I didn't really want to do that anymore. Something in her voice, a flatness that hadn't been there before, made my chest tighten. Em, what's going on? Nothing. I just want to go to Megan's. You can go to Megan's party. We'll figure out another weekend for the climbing gym. But I still want you here. You can go to the sleepover Saturday night and I'll pick you up Sunday morning. More silence. Emma, Mom says you're being controlling, that you're trying to keep me from my friends. There it was. I closed my eyes, took a breath, counted to 5. Your mom and I have an agreement about when you stay with me and when you stay with her. It's not about controlling anyone, it's about making sure we both get time with you. But you're the one who made everything weird. You're the one who… She stopped. Who what? Nothing. Can I just go to Megan's? Come here this weekend. Go to the party Saturday. We'll have breakfast Sunday. Deal? She sighed. A long, theatrical sigh I recognized from 1,000 teenage negotiations. Fine, whatever. She hung up before I could say I loved her. I picked Emma up at 6 p.m. Friday. She came out of Rebecca's house with a backpack slung over one shoulder, earbuds in, eyes on her phone. She got in the car without looking at me. Hey, kiddo. Hey. She didn't take out the earbuds. I drove in silence for 3 blocks before reaching over and gently tapping her arm. She pulled one earbud out. Can we talk for a minute? About what? About what you said on the phone. About me making things weird. She stared out the window. I don't want to talk about it. I know this has been hard. I know the divorce wasn't what you wanted. It wasn't what I wanted either. Then why did you do it? The question hit harder than I expected. Because sometimes people make choices that break trust, and when trust is broken badly enough, you can't fix it. Mom says you never even tried. She says you just wanted to punish her. I gripped the steering wheel tighter, kept my voice level. That's not true, but I understand why she might feel that way. She says you humiliated her in front of everyone, at the coffee place, the coffee shop, the projection on the wall. Rebecca's gratitude entries scrolling across the screen while strangers watched. I'd done that. I'd chosen that. I was angry, I said carefully. I found out your mom had been lying to me for a long time, and I didn't handle it well. I'm not proud of how I did that. Emma turned to look at me for the first time. So you admit it was wrong? I admit I could have handled it better. That's not the same thing. She was right. It wasn't. Your mom made choices that hurt our family. I made choices about how to respond. Some of those choices were good. Some weren't. But Emma, I need you to understand something. This is the part where you tell me it's not my fault, right? That's what everyone says. The school counselor, grandma, everyone. It's not your fault. But that's not what I was going to say. She waited. I was going to say that your mom and I are going to disagree about a lot of things. We're going to tell you different versions of what happened, and you're going to have to figure out what you believe. But no matter what either of us says, I love you. That doesn't change. She looked back out the window. Mom loves me too, and I don't have to choose. You're right, you don't. But even as I said it, I knew Rebecca was already making her choose. Every comment about me being controlling, every reframed story about the divorce, every subtle suggestion that I was the villain. Rebecca wasn't just fighting for custody. She was fighting for Emma's narrative. Saturday morning, Emma asked if she could use my laptop to print something for school. I handed it over without thinking. She sat at the kitchen table while I made pancakes, her favorite, with chocolate chips and whipped cream. I heard the printer start up in the living room, heard her footsteps as she retrieved whatever she'd printed. When I brought the pancakes to the table, she was reading something. A printed email. My email to Patrick about Rebecca's therapy text. She looked up at me, and her expression had changed. Hardened. You're trying to get Dr. Wagner in trouble. I set the plate down carefully. Where did you see that? It was in your recent documents. I was looking for the printer and… She held up the paper. You're reporting her for insurance fraud? Mom's therapist? Emma, that's complicated. That's between the lawyers. You are trying to punish Mom. You're trying to ruin everything for her. That's not what this is. Then what is it? I sat down across from her. Tried to find words that would make sense to a 14-year-old who only had half the story. Dr. Wagner helped your mom do something that wasn't legal. She used insurance money for something insurance doesn't cover. That's fraud. And yes, I documented it because I needed to protect myself in the divorce. Protect yourself? From what? From Mom going to therapy? From your mom using therapy sessions to plan things that could hurt me. Emma stood up. You're just like she said. You twist everything to make yourself look good. Emma, I don't want pancakes. I want to go to Megan's party. The party isn't until tonight. Then I'll wait at Mom's until it's time. She grabbed her backpack. I stood up, blocking the door without meaning to. You're not leaving. We have the whole day. See? Controlling. Just like Mom said. I stepped aside, watched her walk out, heard the door slam. By the time I got outside, she was already on her phone, probably calling Rebecca. I sat on the front steps of my apartment building and pulled out my own phone, opened the text thread with Patrick. She found the email about Dr. Wagner. Now she thinks I'm trying to ruin Rebecca's life. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. This is what parental alienation looks like. Document the conversation. We may need it. I looked at Emma, standing 50 feet away on the sidewalk, her back to me. Document the conversation. My daughter hated me, and I was supposed to write it down for evidence. Rebecca's war wasn't just evolving, it was working. Emma didn't come back that weekend, or the next one. By the 3rd missed visit, Patrick filed a motion for contempt. Rebecca's attorney responded with a counter-motion claiming Emma was old enough to choose where she wanted to stay, citing emotional distress caused by my pattern of vindictive behavior. The hearing was scheduled for 6 weeks out. I spent those weeks documenting everything. Every canceled visit. Every text from Emma that sounded like Rebecca's words in a teenager's voice. Every attempt I made to reach out, and every silence that came back. Noah still came on his weekends. He'd gotten quieter, more careful around me, like he was afraid of saying the wrong thing. We'd play Xbox, go to his soccer games, order pizza. Normal things that felt hollow. Emma says you're mean to Mom, he told me one Sunday, unprompted, while we were driving to return him. What do you think? I asked. He was quiet for a long time. Then, I think you're sad. And Mom's sad. And Emma's mad at everyone. Out of the mouths of 11-year-olds. The hearing never happened. 2 days before we were supposed to appear in court, Patrick called me with news that made no sense at first. Rebecca's dropping the motion, he said. Her attorney just filed a withdrawal. Why? Because Justin, her affair partner, apparently got engaged to someone else. Rebecca found out through social media. I sat down heavily on my couch. You're kidding. Wish I was. According to the grapevine, and yes, lawyers gossip, Rebecca had been telling people that she and Justin were planning a future together. That once the divorce settled, they'd make it official. Turns out he had different plans. The affair that had destroyed my marriage had been just as much a lie for Rebecca as our marriage had become for me. I should have felt vindicated. Instead, I just felt tired. What happens now? Now we wait. Rebecca's going to spiral for a bit. She'll either come out of it more reasonable or more desperate. Either way, we're prepared. Rebecca came out of it broken. Emma called me 3 weeks later at 11 o'clock on a Tuesday night. I almost didn't answer. She'd been ignoring my calls for 2 months. Dad? Her voice was small, young in a way it hadn't been in years. Can you come get me? I was already grabbing my keys. What's wrong? Where are you? I'm at Mom's. She won't stop crying. She's been like this for 2 days. I don't know what to do. I made it to Rebecca's house in 12 minutes. Emma met me at the door, her face pale. She's in her bedroom. She won't eat. She just keeps saying everything's ruined. I found Rebecca curled up in our old bed, her bed now, still wearing the same clothes from what looked like several days ago. The room smelled stale, curtains drawn, tissues everywhere. Rebecca. She looked up at me with eyes so hollow, it was like looking at a stranger. He's getting married, she whispered. Justin. He's marrying her. I sat down on the edge of the bed, keeping distance between us. I know. I gave up everything for him. Everything. And I was just, you need to see someone. A real therapist, not Dr. Wagner. She laughed, bitter and broken. Dr. Wagner dropped me as a client, said I'd become too complicated for her practice. The insurance fraud investigation scared her off. Good, I thought. But I didn't say it. Emma's worried about you. Noah's asking questions I don't know how to answer. You need to get help, Rebecca. Actual help. Why do you care? I destroyed us. I destroyed everything. It was the first true thing she'd said to me in over a year. Because you're still their mother, and they need you to be okay. Rebecca checked herself into an intensive outpatient program the next day. Real therapy, the kind that doesn't facilitate affairs or build custody cases. The kind that actually deals with why a person blows up their life chasing something that was never real. Emma stayed with me while Rebecca was in treatment. We didn't talk about the emails she'd found or the things Rebecca had told her. We just existed together. Awkward breakfasts, quiet dinners, her doing homework at the kitchen table while I worked on my laptop. One night, about 3 weeks in, she looked up from her algebra homework. Mom said you were controlling, that you tracked everything she did. I set down my coffee. Yeah, she said that. But you were just organizing stuff. The journal app. The calendar. That's not the same thing, is it? No, it's not. She made it sound like you were watching her all the time, But you were just trying to keep track of our family. I didn't say anything. Let her work through it. And then she used that same app to write about Justin, where you could see it if you looked. That's messed up. Yeah, I said quietly. It is. Emma went back to her homework. But something had shifted. 6 months after the divorce finalized, Rebecca and I met for coffee. Not at Wanderlust. Neither of us would ever go back there. A neutral place across town, corporate and impersonal. She looked different. Thinner, older maybe, but clearer somehow. Less of that manic energy she'd carried through the affair and the divorce. I'm not going to apologize, she said. My therapist says I need to stop apologizing and start taking responsibility. Those are different things. Okay? I take responsibility for the affair, for the lying, for trying to rewrite everything to make myself the victim. She looked down at her coffee. For using Emma as a weapon against you. Thank you. I'm not asking for forgiveness, I don't deserve it. But I want to be able to co-parent without lawyers, for their sake. We worked out a new informal arrangement. Emma could choose where she stayed, within reason. Noah would stick to the schedule until he was old enough to decide for himself. We'd communicate directly about school stuff, medical stuff, the normal logistics of raising kids across 2 households. No more lawyers unless absolutely necessary. No more warfare. Just 2 broken people trying to do better for the kids we'd made back when we still believed in forever. Emma's 15 now, Noah's 12. They split their time between Rebecca's house and my apartment, which I've slowly turned into an actual home instead of a way station. Emma still gets angry sometimes. Still throws Rebecca's version of events at me when she's mad, then quietly apologizes later when she's thought it through. She's in therapy herself now, a good therapist, one both Rebecca and I approved, working through what it means to love 2 parents who couldn't love each other. Noah just wants everyone to be okay. He's the peacemaker, the one who tries to smooth things over when Emma and I clash, or when Rebecca's having a hard day. I worry about him carrying that weight, but his therapist says he'll be fine, that some kids are just built to be bridges. Rebecca's doing better. She's dating someone new, a guy from her book club who knows about her past and doesn't care. She seems happy, or at least happier, more honest with herself about who she is and what she wants. We're not friends. We'll never be friends. But we can sit in the same room at Noah's soccer games without the air turning toxic. We can coordinate Emma's orthodontist appointments without it becoming a legal negotiation. We can both show up for parent-teacher conferences and present a united front. It's not the family I thought I was building 16 years ago, but it's the one we've got. I still think about that screenshot sometimes. The one that divided my life into before and after. The notification that popped up on Rebecca's laptop while I was just trying to check a calendar. People ask me if I regret how I handled it. The projection at the coffee shop. The public humiliation. The scorched earth approach to the divorce. The honest answer is, I don't know. I regret that Emma saw her father as a villain for 2 years. I regret the money we spent on lawyers instead of college funds. I regret that Noah learned what betrayal looks like before he learned algebra. But I don't regret protecting myself. I don't regret documenting the truth. I don't regret refusing to let Rebecca rewrite reality until I was the abuser and she was the victim. Sometimes there are no good choices, just less terrible ones. The bullet journal app still exists on my phone, though I barely use it anymore. Mostly just grocery lists and work deadlines. Nothing personal. Nothing that could be weaponized if it fell into the wrong hands. I've learned that privacy isn't paranoia. That documentation isn't the same as trust. That sometimes the person who promises to love you forever is the same person who will burn down your life and call it self-actualization. I've also learned that people are more complicated than their worst choices. Rebecca isn't a villain. She's just someone who got lost chasing a fantasy and destroyed real things in the process. She's paying for it, will pay for it for the rest of her life in the relationship she'll never fully repair with our daughter. And I'm not a hero. I'm just someone who fought back when attacked, who chose documentation over denial, who protected what I could even when it cost me things I loved. We're both just people who failed at forever. Last week, Emma asked if she could see the original screenshots from the affair. She's old enough now, she said. Old enough to understand. I told her no. Not because I'm hiding anything. The settlement is public record. She could find it all if she really wanted to. But because some truths don't need to be examined up close. Some wounds heal better when you don't keep picking at them. She accepted that. Told me she appreciated me protecting her from it. Then she asked if I'd ever trust anyone again. I thought about it. Really thought about it. I don't know, I said. Maybe, someday. With the right person. But you'd be careful, she said. Yeah, I'd be careful. She nodded, like that made sense to her. Like she understood that trust and verification aren't opposites. They're partners. That you can love someone and still keep your eyes open. That's the lesson, I guess. The moral of this whole broken story. Love doesn't require blindness. Trust doesn't mean ignoring evidence. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to participate in someone else's delusion. Even when that someone is the person you promised forever to. Especially then. I'm 44 now. Single. Dating occasionally, but nothing serious. My life is smaller than it used to be. Just me, the kids half the time, work, a few close friends who stuck around through the disaster. But it's honest. No shared journals tracking someone else's betrayal. No gratitude entries coded with affair details. No performance of family happiness while the foundation crumbles underneath. Just a regular life. Ordinary and true. And after everything, that feels like enough.